How many homes in Rutherford County sell the first week they're on the market? That's something that we pulled some of that information, and we're going to share that with you today here on the Murfreesboro Real Estate Report. We're also going to go over all the stats for the past week. We've got some information about the Fed that met this past week as well. So a lot of things to get to. But first of all, let's go ahead and jump into what we look at every week, and that's our market details. This week, the Turner Victory Team Market Health Score has Rutherford County at a 54. So it's really a balanced market. And as we talk about every week, that Turner Victory Team Market Health Score brings in a lot of information from local data regarding the housing market, but we also bring in national stuff and regional data as well to come up with that score. Something of note, the 10-year Treasury has risen a little bit since we talked last time, and also mortgage rates have gone up some as well, and we'll talk about that here shortly. First of all, let's jump into our first, or into the sheet we always start out with, which is our snapshot for Rutherford County. And what we're looking at here is what has happened in the county by price range. And let me change this up just slightly so we can see everything on one page here. So there currently are 1,384 homes on the market. Almost 40% of those are new construction. We have 151 homes that are new to the market this week. And with those, over 50% of those are new construction. 138 pendings. 88 homes closed this week, and then there were 68 homes that pulled themselves off the market. Generally speaking, it's because they did not sell. That's not always the case, but that's generally what we see. Whenever you look at home prices below $300,000, we have less than 1.8 months supply. Anything here in the green means that it favors the sellers, but where that number is determines whether it greatly favors the sellers or slightly determines whether it favors the seller. So below 500,000 is still a seller's market, but once we get above 400,000, we're starting definitely to see that's getting into more of what we call a balanced market. Overall, 3.41 months supply of inventory, so that would be what we consider a balanced market as well. Let me scroll back up here. Sorry, hope I'm not blinding you there with all that scrolling. But active inventory for the week, you can see our inventory is rising. We are looking at the orange here. That's this year. The dark blue is last year. So last year we rose at a pretty fast pace, and it wasn't so much with the inventory coming on the market. It was that sales were actually pretty slow. So we don't appear to be rising as quickly this year as we did last year, even though we do have more inventory on the market right now than we had last year. If you look at month supply is slowly creeping up. Like I said, 3.41 month supply. That's compared to 2.77 last year. You go back to 2024, we were below 2% or 2 month supply. So definitely has changed a little bit and getting into what I'd call a healthier market. If your supply is too low, buyers have less choices and it puts upward pressure on prices. So with this month supply rising a little bit, it actually is helping to stabilize those prices. We talked a little bit about that last week. Let me turn off a couple of things here. So new listings, we've been all over the place. Remember, this one deep drop was the week that we had the ice storm, so we can't put a whole lot of stock in that. But if you look at our new listings, except for basically 1 week, we have been trailing for the past couple of months 2025. So we are definitely bringing on less new listings than what we did last year, and a little bit more than what we did in 2024, but those are starting to even out over the past couple weeks here as well. So let's look at our pendings. Pendings this week were 138 pendings. That's up from 125 last week. When we compare this to 2025, every week this year, except for the ice storm, we have outpaced last year as far as the pendings go. And again, we predicted that would happen. We've even outpaced 2024, which is kind of what we thought would happen as well. And when we compare it to 2023, running pretty close to 2023, just slightly below where we were there, but pretty close to 2023 numbers. Monthly closings, we're not really ready to get into that too much right now because we're still in March, but we have had 274 closings in March of this year. Last year we had 419. Now it seems like that number may be way off just because that's a big difference, but really it's not whenever you think about real estate. And still to this day, so many more closings happen towards the end of the month. And here we are sitting at March 22nd. So we've still got a little bit over a week of closings to happen. I do believe that we will close more homes this year than we did last year for the month of March. So we will look at that, but based upon pending home sales, it does seem like that is something that we're going to do. Let's scroll on down. A couple of things we want to look at is our rate of price range as far as the relist goes. And as we talked about, the 700,000, still a lot of homes have been pulled off the market and brought back on the market there. We're seeing it at 600,000 as well. Generally speaking, what happens is a house is not priced correctly or presented correctly, so therefore pull it off the market to reposition price. And we're going to get into a little bit of that here in a minute as well, what you can expect when you first go on the market if you're a seller. And if you're a buyer too, how much competition do you have that first week? We talked about this every week too, just kind of our top markets. 37128, 37129, and Murfreesboro are our most active markets. Then Smyrna is a pretty active market, and then you have the 37130. Something that's interesting to me over here is 37127 is trailing. I will tell you, and I do not have it here, but I pull all sorts of data. We're looking at it every week. Our website even has little market snapshots on it. If you ever want to go see for a specific area, go to turnervictory.com. You can see some of that. But 37127, the month supply is definitely higher than what we're seeing across the rest of Rutherford County. So South Murfreesboro, going out towards Street Manchester Highway, sales are a little bit slower over there. And we've noticed that with some of the listing appointments we've been on, but just it's actually about a month difference on the data that we have. So pretty significant. Talk all the time about our true days on the market versus the MLS days on the market. And our lower price points, they're still fairly close, but once we start getting into the 500s, the days on the market for the 5 to 600 is MLS says 39. We calculate at 48. For the 600,000s, MLS says 40. We calculate at 50. And that continues to grow in the 700,000s where there's a lot of competition. MLS days on the market says 45. We say 59. And that's based upon the relist counts. Showings per price range also, if you look at this, if you are above 500,000, you're getting less than 1.5 showings per week on your home. If you are in the below 400,000s, you're getting 3.5 to 4 showings per week on your home. And that's all across Rutherford County. Now, when we look at new construction, right now, our active inventory in Rutherford County, 40% of it that you see in the MLS is new construction. Under contract now is 51.2%. And that number seems high, but what you have to think about is a lot of those go under contract before the homes are even built. So they remain pending over 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 months. Whereas an existing home, whenever it goes under contract, it's going to close on average in 42 days in Rutherford County. So somewhere between 40 or 30 and 45 days. So you're getting a little bit faster turnover over there. So that does not mean that 51% of all home sales are construction. It just means that's what's showing as pending right now. As a matter of fact, if you look at our next stat, 33% of all the homes that have sold in Rutherford County over the past 6 months have been new construction. And there's a little bit more information there about new construction as well. What I want to get into is a couple of things. First of all, let's jump over to right here, and this is just a placeholder for me to remember to talk about the Fed, because the Fed met last week, decided to keep interest rates, not mortgage rates, they are. And that was pretty much expected. There was a time where it's projected they may actually cut them this meeting, but with everything going over in the Middle East, they have kept those rates there. But what that did to our mortgage rates this week is mortgage rates have gone up again. So the average 30-year mortgage is at 6.22%. Remember, we bottomed out back at the end of February at 5.98. Now, the good news is we're still lower than what we've been since, we go back to December to see 6.22. And then, last year they were, a bit higher. So mortgage rates are still good. They were trending the way we wanted them to, but inflation concerns have really impacted the bond market and inflation concerns because of everything going on in the Middle East and the oil prices, gas prices, all that. So all that comes into play whenever we're looking at what's going on with the mortgage rates. But interestingly enough, you can see right here, this is the purchase application. So how many people have actually made application for a loan, a mortgage, to purchase? There's a refinance index on this, and there's a purchase. So the purchases have been going up ever since February. So that index has been going up. And if we compare March 13th all the way back here to March 13th or 14th of last year it was 154.7 on the index. And here we are at 172.9. That tells me that buyer demand has definitely increased over the year over year. And as a matter of fact, let's talk a little bit about buyer demand. Buyer demand is up 18% versus this time last year. So that is a significant. Now let's talk about the pending contracts, because we said they were 38 this week. Well, that's up from 117 this time last year. So we say, okay, that's 20 units, 18% increase as well. So that's just showing where that buyer demand is up. So if you are a seller, buyer demand is up. If you're a buyer, you're competing against a few more people. We're not really offers across the board right now or anything like that. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some homes. There always will be some homes that are priced right. They're promoted right. They're presented right. And they are going to have multiple offers just because that's the way they are. But across the board, we're not seeing that right now. We are still seeing sellers willing to negotiate. As a matter of fact, single-family homes and homes are it's almost like we have two different markets right now, because on the townhomes, we are seeing a big pressure pricing there, whereas single-family homes, we're not seeing that right now. At the beginning, what percentage of homes sell in the first week in Rutherford County? And I wish I would have had you punch in your guess below. I should have done that. This surprised me a little. 30.2%. So 30% of all homes are selling in the first week in Rutherford County. Another interesting stat is 19% of all homes take over 90 days to sell. So that just tells you, and we talk about the 3 Ps, the pricing, presentation, and promotion. And pricing is the number one. Really will determine whether your home sells quickly or whether it takes some time. Because we are seeing we talked about last week that if you had to reduce the price, there's like a 51-day penalty, what it works out to be. So whenever we look at all the homes across Rutherford County, if they've reduced their price, they have taken 82 days to sell, versus those that did not reduce their price, only 31 days to sell. Our true days on the market has increased year over year. Last year at this time was 43 days on the market. Right now it's 52 days on the market. So there is a little bit more inventory. If you're not priced correctly, it is taking longer to sell your house. With that said, pending contracts are up and new listings coming on the market are down. So we're kind of seeing that months leveling out. We'll continue to watch those trends and see what happens. But these are the same trends we've been watching and seeing for the past 7 or 8 weeks. The other thing we're going to be watching over the next 2 or 3 weeks is really what mortgage rates do. Are they going to hang out around that 6.25%, or are they going to go higher? And I think a lot of that's going to be determined by what comes out of what's going on in the Middle East. If things get resolved over there fairly quickly and oil starts flowing a bit, I think we will see some downward pressure on those mortgage rates. But if we continue to have inflation concerns, I think that we might see mortgage rates rise a little bit. And if they do, it'll be interesting to see what buyer demand does. I don't make a lot of predictions on these. I try to look at the data and read the data. So I'm not going to predict how a conflict, halfway across the world is going, how it's going to impact us. But I will tell you that if it continues to go on and mortgage rates rise, just from an affordability standpoint, I would expect buyer demand to drop down a little bit. But if we get that resolved, I do think trending very well, buyer demand. There's pent-up demand. We also have gotten more rates down to where locked-in effect really did not come into play as much because once we start getting into the 5%, it's a little bit easier for someone who's been putting off moving to want to go ahead and move and jump from a 3%, 3.5%, 2.75% mortgage up to a 5-something. So we will continue to monitor that. Y'all know I'm John Turner with the Turner Victory Onward Real Estate. We've been bringing you these stats now for quite some time. We enjoy doing it. We've got a good database of information that we're able to pull from. I will remind you, we don't just have this information for Rutherford County. We are based in Rutherford County, and we know it very well, but also we information right now. We've got 14 or 15 different counties in Middle Tennessee that we're pulling this information for every week. So if you need some of the charts or stats, just reach out to me. We can get those to you pretty easily. I always appreciate you tuning in. Please give us a like. Please subscribe. Our channel keeps growing, which is very nice because it tells us that you are interested in this information. If there is other information that you would like, please let us know. It's quite frankly, we probably have the stats somewhere. We just don't put them on our show because I think we have stats for everything. So appreciate you tuning in. Hope you have a great week, and we will see you next week. Thank you.